Hi folks, Hoop here again from wintertrekking.com. This time in my 3-man Snowtrekker tent. This is an older model that's 8 by 11, and I'm camping with a buddy, Woolman, and I thought I'd show you around the tent. This is very similar to the previous video I did on my solo tent. Bigger stove. This is 12 by 12 by about 18 or 19. It's a Nyko stove. These are also sold by Snowtrekker, but they're made by Nyko. This one, I forgot to order it from Nyko with the snow legs, which are arcs of metal that are riveted on, which makes it easier to slide the skids in. So I use some red copper wire there, and I intend to install those brackets or snow feet when I get the time. But it did the job. That silvery reflector thing you see there is an ingenious little heat shield. It's soft, it rolls up, and Snowtrekker sells it as an accessory to the stoves, and it really helps prevent the meltdown and melt back under the skids. The wood supply, as usual, with a nice gap in between for safety, because it will get quite hot beside the stove. I do have a couple of aluminum sheets. You can see behind the stove there, that's a heat shield. We move it around. Sometimes we put it in front of the stove here when somebody is sitting over there, depending on how it heats up. The stove is quite variable in the way it throws heat around, so the heat shields get moved around. You can also manipulate the vents up at the gable end there. You can see the other vent, as well as the door, of course. It's a little hot in here, so I'm going to actually open the door, let some cool air in here. Pot set for 2 guys. 3 pots, and I also added this aluminum Primus pot. I think they call it their Light-Tech pot, and it just fits up into the corner, a little corner there of the wood stove, and conducts heat very well. So that's a good permanent addition, I think, to my cooking kit. Pots are just resting there in another heat shield I have folded up that we're not using at the moment. Sleeping bag, that's mine. Milk crate there with Woolman stuff. Sleeping bag is drying, and in behind it, that bluish bag there is my bivy bag, which goes over top. It's taken off the bag right now for drying, and I've put it between the edge of the tent and the bag, because we've found through experience that if the bag is touching, when you're trying to dry it, if it's touching the edge of the tent, you'll get condensation on there. So that bivy bag is just making sure that none of the bag is touching the edge of the tent, and it's pretty dry already. Actually, it's pretty good. There's Woolman's stuff. He has a double bag system, an inner bag and an outer bag, and that orange bag there is his bivy bag, which is already dry. It doesn't really matter if the bivy bag dries out or not. It'll be frosted on the inside. You just shake the frost out, and it's going to get frosted the next night, so it's no big deal. We were drying stuff, but pretty well all the stuff is dried out. Woolman's got his stuff on. He's out for a hike. Those are my boot liners that I switch out every day. Day gloves, same as the old video. So everything else is pretty well dry. There's lots of questions on the website about lighting, and there's different gadgets and gizmos out there. I have had pretty good results with these little flashlights that I'm just hanging from these drying lines that I've taped onto the poles, and they take 4 triple A's. And all my stuff now is AAA system. My headlamp is 3 AAAs, so that makes it easy to figure out which batteries I need to bring. I just stick to AAA system. Again, we're lucky in northwestern Ontario with all this abundant public, or what we call here, Crown land. And we're out camping in a place where nobody would ever camp in the summer because it's thick bush. And so we harvest balsam boughs and spruce boughs, in this case mostly balsam fir boughs. And this is a packed snow floor. There's about 2 feet of snow that I packed down, so you could post hole this down a foot easily without these boughs. But the boughs form a lattice work and stabilize the floor. They also provide excellent insulation for laying our sleeping pads on top of, and any bit of snow falls off your clothing and down into the boughs, and we can pour liquids and prepare food, and any spillage, and there's a lot of spillage when you're pouring water, all that just trickles down through the boughs into the snow floor underneath. So it's the traditional way to live in the northern boreal forests. Very traditional, but you can't do this in parks and conservation areas and places like that that have specific rules. This is way out in Crown land, and it's a privilege. It's a great privilege to be able to sleep on boughs. They're aromatic, they're springy, they're dry. It's just a wonderful way to live in winter, but not everybody can do that, and so I'm very thankful that we have this privilege to be able to do this in the boreal forests of northwestern Ontario. Okay, I'm going to try to show you the stove operation here, one-handed. I'm holding the camera with one hand and have my my work gloves that have a fleece liner, so I can grab. You need a set of gloves like this when you're working with the stove. This stove has an air intake on the front that you can adjust, and a pipe damper to damp it down or open it up. And with the combination of these two controls, you can cook and boil water and heat. But it's quite an art to learn the combinations and permutations of the various controls, and the type of wood you have, the species of wood, its dryness, whether it's split or whole, all affects the way it burns. Going inside the tent here, inside the stove rather. It really becomes more efficient for cooking as you build up coals. So you start with thin splits and get some big diameter pieces going, and you'll have really good cooking capacity. Thought I'd do a little walkabout on the outside of this 3-man Snowtrekker. There's what we call our bank. So we pile wood for the outside that we cook with, and then on the inside we have our morning wood supply that we make sure is nice and dry. There's a guy out rope right there that pulls the tent away from the stove area and allows you more room to pack your inside wood supply there. This older model has the double zip doors. They've changed that. This is one of the vents, tube vents, that you can close off if you want to keep it hotter or vent more steam. This is one of the older models. It has these double guy outs, 2 double guy outs per side, and there's one on the back as well. There's a sod cloth. There's a black sod cloth. You can just see a bit of it here that you pile snow on, and that snow sets up and anchors this thing down. Now we're tucked in out of the wind anyway, so this isn't going to blow away, but that seals any drafts from around the perimeter of the tent. There's different ways to rig stovepipes. Some people have them coming straight up. It's important though to get the top of a pipe, if you do rig a straight up pipe, well above the top of your tent, because sparks and embers can fly out, and so I prefer the the slanted rig where it's angling away from the tent. This stove burns pretty clean, but occasionally sparks and things pop out the end. They usually burn out before they hit the tent, but it's a cotton tent, and it's highly unlikely that it would be on fire, or catch on fire rather. But for safety purposes, it's good. I think it's good to angle the pipe away. So you need a universal adjusting elbow there, and it's good to grease it before your trip because it can lock up a bit. The bipod is just 2 small poles cut, and there's toggles here that you can see with a long piece of wire. I make this about 6 feet in length. I forget what gauge of wire that is, so I can bind the bipod and wrap it once around the pipe, and it's very, very solid. Very, very solid. The snow sets up around the bottom of the bipod pieces, and it's a rock solid rig. So this is the 3-man Snowtrekker 8x11. It's an older model, and there's 2 of us camping in it, and it's extremely luxurious for 2, but it's not out of line to carry on a sled for dividing the load between 2 sleds. So I'm very pleased with it. Gotta love that heat. Gotta love it.